Memories of a soldier at Stalingrad. In the harsh winter of 1942, when Stalingrad had transformed into a frozen and desolate battleground, I, a simple German soldier, found myself in the midst of this tragedy. My memories are laden with scenes of horror, loss, and disillusionment, yet also punctuated with small beacons of humanity that shone through the chaos. My name is Heinrich Müller, and this is a fragment of my life in that colossal battle of war, which became a symbol of human suffering and resilience. From the onset, the biting cold gnawed at our souls in a way we had never anticipated. Our garments were but feeble barriers against the harsh bites of the unforgiving wind, and the snow cracked beneath our boots like a silent testimony to impending doom. Yet, we were convinced that victory was imminent. We had been taught to believe that the might of the German war machine was unstoppable. Stalingrad, however, became the graveyard of our illusions. We lost comrades, brothers in arms, in a battle that not even our most gruesome nightmares could have foreseen. Buildings had crumbled to ruins, and street fighting had transformed into a brutal struggle for every inch of frozen ground. In the freezing nights, I retreated to an improvised shelter with my surviving comrades. The dim light of gas lamps revealed tired faces, etched with lines of weariness and shadows of unrest. In those moments, my gaze often wandered toward a photograph of my family, clutched tightly to my chest. It reminded me of the purpose for which we fought, but also of the growing chasm between the realms of war and my former life. One morning, we received orders for a special mission. We were to penetrate deep into the heart of the city in a desperate attempt to alter the course of the war. Every step forward was a battle, and the walls of ice and destruction signaled that we had entered hell. The cries and frozen fires made us question our humanity, but we couldn't afford to lose ourselves in thoughts. On a cold December day, when the sun seemed to have never touched those accursed lands, we found an improvised shelter. In a rusted wooden box, we discovered letters and photographs left by another German soldier. It was a window into his world, where family and a beloved held onto life in ink and paper. With every word read, I felt a connection to him as to a lost brother. As we advanced through the ruins of Stalingrad, those words, written with such tenderness and hope, lingered in my mind. Though we faced war and death, we began to understand that in the darkest corners of hell, people have the power to retain a glimmer of humanity. As we advanced through the ruins of Stalingrad, those words, written with such tenderness and hope, lingered in my mind. Though we faced war and death, we began to understand that in the darkest corners of hell, people have the power to retain a glimmer of humanity. Our unit pressed forward through the treacherous remnants of what once was a thriving city. The air was thick with an ominous silence, occasionally interrupted by the distant echoes of artillery fire. The ruins seemed to harbor the ghosts of those who had perished, and the skeletal remains of buildings served as haunting reminders of the ferocity of the battle that had raged through the streets. One day, while navigating through a labyrinth of rubble, we stumbled upon a makeshift hospital hidden in the skeletal frame of a former factory. Inside, the wounded, both German and Soviet soldiers, lay side by side. The relentless cruelty of war seemed to dissipate within those walls as the medical staff worked tirelessly to save lives, regardless of uniform. Among the patients was a young Soviet soldier, barely more than a boy. His eyes, once filled with fear, now held a glimmer of gratitude. Despite the language barrier, a silent understanding passed between us. War had turned us into adversaries, but within the confines of that makeshift infirmary, we were all victims of the same relentless force. In the days that followed, as we patrolled the ruined streets, we encountered pockets of civilians who had miraculously survived the devastation. Their resilience was awe-inspiring. They had endured unimaginable hardships, yet their spirits remained unbroken. With limited supplies, we shared what little we had with them, forging a fragile connection amid the chaos of war. As the conflict continued, our unit found itself engaged in intense firefights and strategic maneuvers. Each day brought new challenges, but the camaraderie that had formed among us soldiers was a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. We relied on each other for strength and support, transcending the boundaries imposed by nations and ideologies. One evening, as the sun dipped below the shattered horizon, casting long shadows over the desolate landscape, we received news that the tide of the battle was turning. Allied forces had launched a counteroffensive, and the once impregnable German lines were being pushed back. While the news brought a mixture of relief and apprehension, a glimmer of hope sparked within us. The end of the relentless struggle seemed closer than ever. As we navigated through the war-torn streets, we stumbled upon an abandoned building that had miraculously escaped the devastation. Inside, we discovered a piano, its keys weathered but still functional. One of our comrades, a talented musician before the war, hesitantly sat down and began to play a haunting melody. The strains of music filled the air, momentarily drowning out the echoes of gunfire. In that fragile moment, amidst the ruins and the remnants of war, something extraordinary occurred. Soldiers from both sides cautiously emerged from their hiding places, drawn together by the universal language of music. A German and a Soviet soldier, once sworn enemies, found themselves sharing a moment of respite, transcending the boundaries of war through the power of a piano's melancholy notes. As the melody faded away, the soldiers exchanged glances that spoke of a shared understanding, an acknowledgement of the humanity that still existed beneath the veneer of conflict. In that ephemeral connection, the seeds of peace were sown, and the possibility of reconciliation began to take root. Days turned into weeks, and the war in Stalingrad gradually ground to a halt. The once bustling city, now a mere shadow of its former self, bore witness to the toll of human conflict. Amidst the remnants of destruction, the soldiers and civilians who had weathered the storm emerged, scarred but resilient. In the aftermath, as the dust settled and the echoes of gunfire faded, the surviving soldiers from both sides found themselves facing an uncertain future. The shared experiences of hardship and the glimpses of humanity within the darkest corners of war had forged a bond that transcended national borders. As we, the German soldiers, prepared to leave Stalingrad, a sense of reflection settled over us. The city, once synonymous with suffering, had become a crucible of transformation. We carried with us the memories of those who had fallen, the lessons learned in the crucible of conflict, and a newfound appreciation for the fragile beauty of humanity. In the years that followed, Stalingrad transformed into a symbol of reconciliation. Former enemies, once locked in mortal combat, now stood side by side, united by the shared desire to rebuild and move beyond the scars of war. The melodies of that piano, played amidst the ruins, lingered as a poignant reminder that even in the darkest hours, the human spirit has the power to create moments of beauty, connection, and, ultimately, hope.